The story begins in a dark and desolate world, a vertical landscape of jagged peaks and shadowed towers where dragons circle a sky thick with smoke. Deep within the demon realm of hell, mud, fire, and lava flow beneath black fortresses that stretch toward a blood-red moon. Inside a crumbling stone hall, the light of a fading sun spills through a massive breach in the wall, illuminating the debris of a long-forgotten battle. It was into this nightmare that the great warrior Vermouth and his 4 companions ventured, determined to subdue the demon kings and end their reign of terror. Their journey has been bloody and grueling. They have already slain 3 of the 5 demon kings, leaving only 2 more to stand in their way. As they charge through the dark corridors of the enemy's stronghold, a swarm of winged demons descends upon them from the shadows. A massive horde of monsters, led by a colossal, roaring dragon-like beast with glowing red eyes, stands between the heroes and their goal. At the front of the charge is Vermouth, his flowing white hair and piercing golden eyes reflecting a calm, unshakable resolve. With a sudden burst of speed, he draws his blade, the steel glowing with a brilliant blue light as he carves through the demonic ranks. Each strike is a flash of blinding energy that shatters the darkness, culminating in a massive explosion of power that clears a path through the center of the horde. Following close behind is the mage of the group, Senya, her purple robes fluttering as she runs toward the next wave of winged terrors. Looking at the sheer number of enemies, a confident smirk plays across her lips. Against this many, she shouts, "I can use my magic." Raising her staff, its crimson gem flares with light as she unleashes a devastating elemental storm of ice, fire, and wind that obliterates everything in its path. Known as the wise Senya, she gazes at the destruction with a fierce, satisfied grin. In the midst of the chaos, Anise stands with unnatural calm, the wind whipping around her as she prepares her divine arts. She clasps her hands in prayer, a warm radiance beginning to glow between them. "Everyone, I'll give you a blessing," she calls out. Even as a blue-skinned demon lunges at her from the shadows with a predatory shriek, Anise doesn't flinch. With surprising brutality, she swings her mace, crushing the monster's skull in a single, fluid motion. Despite the violence, she maintains a serene, almost mocking smile, earning her the title of the faithful Anise. The ground then trembles as a heavy, armored boot stomps down, sending shockwaves that hurl demons into the air. Molan, a giant of a man, lets out a deafening war cry as he heaves a massive axe over his shoulder. He becomes a whirlwind of steel, his axe spinning in a deadly circle that cleaves through the demonic ranks with ease. As the blood of his enemies rains down upon him, he looks up at the sky with wide, wild eyes and a manic toothy grin. He is the brave Molan, a warrior of unmatched, if somewhat unhinged, ferocity. Finally, there is Hamel, who sprints through the battlefield with a look of pure irritation. His eyes are fixed on Vermouth's back as he screams in fury, "Vermouth, that bastard! Stop going ahead of me!" Driven by a desperate need to outdo the great warrior, Hamel plunges headlong into a crowd of demons alone. His sword moves like lightning, leaving a glowing web of blue slashes in the air as he cuts down every monster in his path. Known to some as the foolish Hamel, he stands amidst a pile of steaming corpses, huffing with indignation. Though they fight as one, a bitter tension simmers beneath the surface. Hamel has always been deeply jealous of Vermouth, constantly fuming in the shadow of the man he considers his greatest enemy. While Hamel insisted to anyone who would listen that Vermouth was his true rival, no one else in the world, or the party, thought the same. Following this initial victory over the demon horde, the 5 heroes stand together, weary but vigilant as they survey the dark hall. Hamel, catching his breath, believes the worst of the fighting is over. "I think we've pretty much cleared all the minions," he notes, momentarily lowering his guard. Suddenly, a terrifying presence causes his blood to run cold. "Vermouth," he screams, sensing a sudden, lethal movement. A flash of energy cuts through the air, catching even Vermouth off guard as he glances back in shock. In that instant, a jagged, demonic tail pierces through Hamel's chest. He collapses, a spray of blood accompanying his pained cry, "Kihiak." The attacker reveals itself, a terrifying, high-ranking demon with glowing red eyes and a horned helmet. Hamel reels, clutching the gaping wound in his chest and falling to the ground as the monster towers over him. The demon lets out a high-pitched, mocking screech, kikik. Vermouth's calm demeanor shatters into pure, icy rage. He unleashes a torrent of blue magical energy and grips his sword with lethal intent. With a powerful leap, he swings his blade in a brilliant arc of light. The strike is absolute, cleaving the demon entirely in two and ending the encounter in a massive, blinding explosion of power. Senya and Anise sprint toward their fallen friend, Senya's voice filled with panic as she screams, "Hamel!" The group gathers around his broken body, a heavy silence falling over the hall. Vermouth stands at the center, looking down with a mixture of grief and frustration. "You didn't need to die like this," he says quietly. Hamel, however, offers a bloody, defiant smile. "This is an honorable enough death," he insists, choosing to face his end with pride. Yet, beneath that bravado, a deep regret lingers. Until his final breath, he mourns the fact that he was never truly honest with the companions he loved. He reaches up with a blood-stained hand, gasping, "Vermouth, you must defeat the Demon King." Vermouth takes his hand in a firm, bloodied grip and makes a solemn vow, "I swear on the warrior's name, I will massacre all of the Demon Kings." Contented, Hamel's expression softens. He turns his final thoughts to the rest of the party, asking Anise to pray for him as she clasps her hands in grief. He tells Moron that he is the bravest warrior to ever live. Finally, he looks at the weeping Senya, attempting to confess his true feelings at last. "To be honest, I like." 300 years later, that same voice erupts in a fit of fury. "I never liked you." "I didn't say that," screams a young boy, stomping a book into the floor. This is the young Eugene Lionheart, and he is trembling with indignation. He is outraged by the anonymous children's book in his hands, which portrays him as Hamel the Foolish, while his friends are given titles of grandeur. "Was this written by some bastard who I beat up 300 years ago?" he yells. He tosses the book aside, wondering why his companions didn't do more to protect his honor. As he looks at a picture of his friends mourning his death, he realizes they could never have anticipated this turn of events. He clearly remembers his past life as Hamel, dying in the quest to slay the Demon King. Now, he finds himself in a new body, standing in a luxurious room beneath a massive painting. It is the portrait of Vermouth the Great. In a twist of fate he never expected, he has been reincarnated as a descendant of his greatest rival. His name is now Eugene Lionheart, and at 13 years old, his new journey is just beginning. The story of the great warrior Vermouth takes an unexpected turn after his death. While he was alive, it was whispered that he kept many concubines in addition to his first wife, a fact that his reincarnated rival finds difficult to reconcile. As Eugene, the reincarnation of Hamel, pulls on his boots, he wonders if his old enemy changed as he aged, though he ultimately concludes that even a legend like Vermouth was only human. This complicated history created a rigid hierarchy within the family. Only the descendants of the first wife are considered the direct line, while all others, including Eugene's family, are relegated to the indirect branch. This distinction carries harsh restrictions. Branch families are forbidden from training their mana or using real swords until they undergo a specific ritual. Despite these rules, Eugene has been training relentlessly with a wooden sword, though he has decided that today will be the last day he settles for such a toy. With a fierce, glowing intensity in his eyes, he unleashes a flurry of strikes. His movements are a blur of precision, and with one final, explosive blow, he shatters the practiced dummy into pieces. His father, standing nearby, is left in a state of shock. "You've broken it again," he says, looking at the debris. Eugene turns to him, his physique showing a level of muscular development that is unnatural for a 13-year-old. Watching him, his father is secretly terrified, feeling that there is no innocence to be found in those frightening eyes, and admitting to himself that he would likely lose to his own son in a hand-to-hand fight. Eugene's focus quickly shifts to the poor quality of his equipment. He kicks a piece of the broken dummy, declaring that the town's blacksmith is absolute shit. Holding up a broken hilt, he fumes that the man should be whipped for selling such trash for money, though he tells his father he is far too generous for allowing it. His father, visibly flustered, can only cough and promise to give the smith a warning. The looming shadow of the blood succession ritual hangs over them, a tradition Eugene views as shitty. Every 10 years, every Lionheart child between 10 and 15 gathers at the main residence to compete for the honor of the family name. However, Eugene sees the ritual for what it truly is, a rigged system designed to ensure the branch families never outperform the direct lineage, who have been allowed the advantage of mana and real weapons all along. Watching his son, the father is filled with a mixture of pride and profound guilt. He realizes Eugene's talents are so great that he should have been born into the main family. He even finds himself wishing Eugene were less talented, so the boy wouldn't have to suffer the painful discrepancy between his vast potential and the reality of his station. Eugene notices the distress on his face, and though his father tries to brush it off as nothing, Eugene knows he is berating himself for not being a good father. Suddenly, his father grabs Eugene by the shoulders with a desperate look in his eyes. He pleads with Eugene never to compete with the children of the main family, warning him that no amount of raw talent can match those who have already trained their mana. Eugene gives him a bright, dutiful smile and promises to obey. But as soon as his father looks away, the soul of the warrior Hamel resurfaces. As if, he thinks, his expression turning dark and predatory. To Eugene, the upcoming ritual isn't a threat, it's a tedious competition against children that is barely worth the effort of a sigh. Still in the training yard, Eugene stands shirtless, his gaze fixed intensely on another simple wooden practice dummy. As his father looks on, the boy prepares for the upcoming blood succession ritual, a competition involving 3 children from the main family and 6 from various branch families. Eugene's mind quickly dismisses his competition. He knows that while one main family participant is the son of the first wife and 2 are a concubine's twins, most of the others, aside from 2 from high-authority branches, are just losers. With his arm tightly bandaged, he raises his wooden sword with practiced ease. In a sudden, violent motion, he strikes the dummy with such force that it shatters into a cloud of debris. A predatory grin spreads across his face as his eyes glow with a fierce light, his thoughts focused on testing the mettle of the descendants of Vermouth the Great. Soon after, a carriage carries Eugene away from his home, traveling down a sunlit path toward the distant mountains. Looking out the window at the passing windmills, Eugene reflects on his past life as Hamel, a time when he truly believed he was a genius. He vividly remembers his childhood as Hamel, standing triumphantly over a group of defeated boys in a city alleyway, knowing even then that he could learn faster than anyone else. However, that confidence was eventually met with a harsh reality. He recalls a moment of intense frustration where, covered in dirt and gasping for breath, he had snapped at someone, demanding to know what they had said to him. The target of his anger was a young, calm Vermouth, who had looked down at him and remarked that it was a shame Hamel wasn't trying harder to be stronger. Infuriated, Hamel had screamed that he was already swinging his sword to the absolute best of his ability. He had pointed a finger at the legendary warrior, shouting that Vermouth shouldn't assume everyone else was a natural-born genius like him. In his current life, Eugene acknowledges that he wasn't the true genius, that title belonged to someone else entirely. That man was Vermouth the Great, a master of both magic and swords who was revered as the god of war. A former duke of the Kiel Empire, Vermouth had been praised as the ultimate warrior until the very end of his life. Sitting in the carriage now, Eugene scowls at the memory of the other bastards who accompanied them. He thinks of Anise the Faithful, a woman he considers to have rotten insides, despite being worshipped as a saintess with her own holy scriptures. Then there was Senya the Wise, whom he remembers as a little wench, but who nevertheless became the youngest magic tower master in history. Finally, there was Moron the Brave, an idiot who went so far as to establish an entire kingdom and name it after himself. While all his former companions seemingly lived good lives until they died, Eugene is haunted by a single, burning question. His expression darkens with rage as he grips his own arm, wondering why the Demon King is still alive. He remembers Vermouth's vow to defeat all the Demon Kings and curses his old rival as a goddamned bastard for failing to finish the job. Eugene knows he died at the castle of the Demon King of Incarceration, and that after his death, Vermouth made a mysterious promise with that same Demon King. Because of that pact, the Great War ended, and the world has known a peace that has lasted for 300 years. Inside the carriage, an older man named Lord Gordon notices the boy's brooding silence and assumes he is simply nervous. Gordon clasps his hands and smiles broadly, seemingly amused by the situation. He winks at Eugene, warning him that if he is nervous now, he will truly struggle once he meets the main family. Eugene maintains a polite facade, offering a bright, fake smile as he thanks Lord Gordon for the advice. The carriage soon passes a sign indicating they have officially entered the Lionheart property. When Eugene makes a move to get ready, Gordon chuckles and tells him to stay seated, noting that it is still a long way to the main residence. Eugene inwardly scoffs at the man's smugness over property that doesn't even belong to him. When Eugene asks if such a massive estate is inconvenient, Gordon explains that they have warp gates for travel, though he pointedly adds that Eugene hasn't been granted permission to use them yet. Eugene remains silent, his polite smile masking his growing irritation as the horses continue their steady gallop. Finally, the carriage pulls up to the magnificent, towered gates of the Lionheart main family's residence. Gordon formally welcomes him, addressing the boy as Sir Eugene as he prepares to face the descendants of his greatest rival. The arrival at the Lionheart main family residence begins at the towering, ornate gates, where blue flags emblazoned with golden lion crests flutter in the breeze. Eugene stands with Lord Gordon, looking quite unimpressed as he thinks to himself that while there might be a grand welcome ceremony for some, he certainly isn't getting one. Before them stretches a massive, castle-like estate, with rows of flags lining the path to the main mansion. These flags bear a clear and imposing message: Vermouth's Lionheart. As Eugene watches them, he reflects on the strict hierarchy of his new family, noting that only those from the direct bloodline are permitted to wear the lion crest on the left side of their chest. Turning to his guide, Eugene asks if any of his other relatives have arrived yet. Gordon informs him that he is the first to arrive and offers to lead him to the guest house. They arrive at a beautiful, multi-storied building surrounded by manicured gardens and vibrant flowers. Inside, Eugene is greeted by a young maid who bows deeply and introduces herself as Nina. She promises to attend to his every need and presents a small bell, instructing him to ring it if he requires anything at all. Settling into his lavish room, Eugene asks Nina how old she is, only to learn she is 16 and has just finished her training period. This realization sours his mood. He suspects that assigning him an inexperienced servant is a blatant attempt at harassment, meant to bait him into a conflict if she makes a mistake. Despite his irritation, he asks when the other family members are expected to arrive, and Nina tells him they should be there within the next 4 days. Refusing to waste time, Eugene immediately orders her to take him to the training grounds. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the estate grounds, 2 children from the main family are watching him from the shadows of the stone buildings. A boy points toward Eugene, asking for his name, and a girl named Seal laughs as she confirms it is Eugene, noting he is the same age as them. They lean against a wall, mockingly discussing how he comes from a small country town at the west end of the empire. Seal giggles that he is likely more used to training with a rake than a wooden sword. The boy joins in the mockery, snickering that the carriage Eugene arrived in must be filthy with animal excrement, and that he should be held responsible for any damage he causes to the residents. Seal excitedly suggests they go scold him, but the boy, maintaining a smug air of superiority, insists they are simply going to give him a warning. From a window high above, another boy watches the pair as they walk across the courtyard. Her gaze becomes predatory, her eyes glowing with an intense golden light as she focuses on him. Suddenly, the boy freezes in his tracks, breaking into a cold sweat as he feels a sudden, terrifying pressure. Behind him, the window pane where the boy stood seemingly cracks or shatters from the sheer intensity of her aura. While the boy is visibly shaken, she looks back with a curious smirk. Undeterred by the interaction, Eugene makes his way to the wide training yard, where Nina watches him from a distance. He takes up a training spear, his posture shifting into a stance of lethal precision. He begins to strike, the spear becoming a blur of blue motion as he thrusts it with incredible speed and power. As he pushes himself, he reflects on his journey. Though he was never lazy during his past life as Hamel, he has been training this new body with a furious intensity ever since his reincarnation. Through this relentless practice, Eugene has discovered that no matter how hard he pushes this new body, he never falls ill, and any injuries he sustains heal with remarkable speed. With a firm, practiced grip, he spins the spear with a sharp clack, creating a whirlwind of dust and air around him. A predatory, satisfied grin spreads across his face as he realizes that the body of Vermouth's descendant is capable of things far beyond his imagination. Watching from the sidelines, Nina the maid is mesmerized by the display. She is completely awestruck, realizing that Eugene is performing these high-level movements while wearing heavy sandbags on his arms. Her wonder is suddenly replaced by terror when a cold voice calls out, "Hey!" Cyan and Seal Lionheart have arrived, with Cyan demandingly asking what Eugene is doing. Nina is visibly shaken, stammering out a greeting to the young master and madam. Cyan ignores her, pointing an aggressive finger at Eugene and questioning what he thinks he is doing there. Eugene brings his practice to a halt, planting his spear firmly into the dirt. He looks at Cyan and asks if it isn't obvious that he is practicing with his spear. As he turns back to his training, he casually dismisses the boy, calling him an idiot. Seal, sensing an opportunity for chaos, whispers to her brother with a sly smirk, "Brother, that country kid called you an idiot." Cyan's face contorts with a brewing, golden-eyed rage. He screams at Eugene, demanding an immediate apology. Eugene looks back with a flat, bored expression and offers a simple, "I'm sorry." The bluntness of the response leaves Cyan momentarily speechless and stunned. He quickly explodes again, shouting that the apology wasn't sincere and demanding that Eugene bow down with true sincerity. Eugene simply asks if they aren't the same age. He shrugs, questioning why he would need to bow if they are supposed to be friends. This insult to his status sends Cyan into a frenzy. He bellows that they are not considered equals just because they both bear the Lionheart name. Seal nudges her brother, reminding him of their plan regarding the carriage. Cyan's expression turns malicious as he orders Eugene to go clean the carriage he arrived in, sneering that it must stink of the farm animals from his small country town. Eugene just stares at him with deadpan eyes. He then turns to Nina and asks if she is indeed his personal servant. When she confirms she is, Eugene points to his carriage and calmly instructs her, "Then go clean the carriage that I came in." The brazen reversal catches Cyan and Seal off guard, while poor Nina is left panicking in the middle of the confrontation. Cyan's face is now shadowed with a murderous intensity. He growls that he ordered Eugene specifically and asks if he is intentionally disrespecting his command. Command from Clan Lionheart. Eugene, still perfectly relaxed, waves a hand and says, "Yeah, I'm Eugene Lionheart. It's nice to meet you, too." Seal waves back with a mockingly sweet smile, while Cyan reaches his absolute breaking point. Declaring that Eugene has ignored his orders and dishonored him, Cyan looks at a wooden sword lying on the ground. He snatches it up and, engulfed in a fiery aura of pure rage, points it at Eugene and screams, "I request a duel."